inefficient allocation, and reduced technical progress. But nevertheless, there are monopolies or nearly monopolies with a positive effect for the economic welfare, like the telecommunication or energy sector. Or do you think it is better to have one power line for every energy company? And that's the problem with monopolies.
I hope you get the basic idea what's going on, right? So monopoly is good or bad, it depends. So let's talk about on next slide. So why monopolies arise? The fundamental cause of monopoly is the barrier to entry. What kind of a barrier is that? We'll talk about in our coming slides. Barriers can be different ones. So a monopoly remains only one seller in the market because other firms cannot enter into the business due to entry barrier. And what are those? Number one, key resources. Second, if the government gives exclusive rights to produce some good. The third one is called cost of production, which is cost of production make a single producer more efficient than a larger number of producers. When you decrease your cost so low, and you can decrease the price of your product so that what is your price, the sale price, that price is the other person's cost. So he cannot compete your price, so he's going out from the business, and you at the end remains only seller of the good, right? So barriers to entry, one going to be key resources, if the government grants the right, and number three, when the cost of production is so efficient that you drive out all the competition. And we call this why monopoly arises as well, right? So let's discuss one by one. Number one, ownership of a key resource. Although exclusive ownership of a key resource is a potential source of monopoly, in practice, monopolies rarely arise out of these reasons. Yes, they arise, but if in one country they arise, the competitors can, competitors can be there. Why? Because they can import from other countries as well if they charge higher prices, right? So consider if there is only one water supply firm in Shanghai, it can charge price above the marginal cost due to the absence of any other firm. That is called ownership of key resources. Only one company has the key resources. For example, the nuclear one has nuclear uranium possession or mines by one company. Similarly, the coal mines by one company, gold mine, this kind of stuff. So that creates a monopoly, yes. So there is a very nice case study on your book page 289 called De Beers Diamond Monopoly. You can refer to that one. It's a very nice case study. The second one is government created monopolies. It means governments may restrict entry by giving single firms or exclusive right to sell particular goods in certain market. For example, if the government says that only Shanghai subway can operate subways in Shanghai, that's it. Or Shanghai transportation, public transportation is only run by Shanghai transportation company, that's it. You cannot run your private conveyance public car, that's it. Right? So we have example that US grant monopoly to a network solution incorporation, which maintains databases of all the .com, .net, and .org websites. So how governments can create monopolies? By giving patents and copyrights. So patents and copyrights laws are two important examples of how government creates a monopoly to serve public interests. Right? The number third, we call this natural monopoly, in which you are producing so efficiently that you can reduce your cost to minimum and offer the price which nobody can compete. So in an industry, the natural monopoly is occurred when a single firm can supply a good or service to an entire market at a smallest cost that could two or more firms can afford. So a natural monopoly arises when there are economies of scale over the relevant range of the outputs. Right? For example, your average total cost of producing the product is, for example, $8, and the market price right now is $50, and the price is $25. Sorry. Others, others are producing at $25 and the market price is $50. Right? When market price is $50, right? This company B and this company A, both companies are surviving in the market. But what if company A announces that I can supply you the goods or services at 20? So company B will say that my cost is 25. I cannot compete this 20. But for company A, he's still getting $12 profit. 20 minus this is production cost 8. So in that case, the company B gonna be exit the market because company A not gonna increase the price for a longer period of time, and company B decide to exit. When company B decide to exit, A become the monopoly, right? So this is called natural monopoly. So many of students confuse the natural monopoly with government granted monopolies. No. Or ownership of a key resources. No. Natural monopoly is when you drive out all the competition through economies of scales or producing efficiently. That's it. So we talked about the economies of scales are that part of your long run every total cost in which you produce more, your total cost is declining. So that part of your every total cost, so till this part is called economies of scale, this part is called cost relative to scale, and this part is called diseconomies of scale. So if you manage to stay for a longer period of time in economies of scale, you are going towards monopoly. Right, everyone? Any question? No? Okay, let's move on. So entrant firms know that they cannot achieve the lowest cost, as after entering the market, share will be divided and they cannot even get to their break even. So normally firms have trouble to maintain natural monopoly without the support of ownership of the resources, key resources, or protection from the government. Right? So natural monopolies are there, yes, but they cannot sustain for a longer period of time. Right? So monopolist profit attracts some entrants despite of the large fixed cost, and in the long run, monopoly loses its market power. Even though you are operating here at economies of scale here, but for a longer period of time, some companies, big companies, they still can think that they can compete you, or they can import the raw material at a very cheapest cost, and they can give you a tough competition, right? So natural monopolies cannot survive for a longer period of time without the help of having key resources or protection from government. So let's talk about the differences between monopoly and the competition. So monopoly is a sole proprietor or sole producer. Competitive firms, there are many producers. Competitive firms faces the horizontal demand curve. Price line is horizontal straight line. Whereas the monopoly, it faces downward sloping curve. Why? Because they follow the law of demand. We just talked about that. Can monopoly influence the price? I said yes. We said yes. We agreed on that. But can they control their revenue? No, because law of supply, law of demand occurs. Why? If price increases, quantity go down. So they cannot control their total revenue as well. So you see law of demand there. So law of demand states that demand is downward sloping. So monopoly faces downward sloping curve here. Their price line going to be downward sloping, whereas competitive firm supply curve, demand curve going to be price line. The monopoly is called price maker, competitive firm is called price takers. So if they want to increase their sales, they are going to decrease the price, increasing the quantity. Whereas competitive firms has no control over the price. So if they want to increase their sales, they don't have much options because they can increase their total revenue by selling more because they have little control over price. So here we go. This is the difference between the demand curve for competitive firm and monopolist. Right? Understand? So their demand curve is downward sloping. Okay, now let's talk about the revenue structure of monopoly. The total revenue formula is the same. Average revenue formula is the same. So you see here, price into quantity is the total revenue. So when you divide both by Q, price becomes average revenue. So even in monopoly, price is equal to AR. Marginal revenue formula is change in total revenue divided by change in quantity. So let's talk about that. What else we would see the similarities and differences. So we are taking the example from the book, the water supply company. So this is the quantity of water and this is the price. Since there is only one water supply company, it can influence the price. Yes, you see price is not the same. Increase, decrease. If the price is highest, quantity is lowest. If the price is lowest, quantity is highest. Right? So what is the total revenue? Total revenue would be equal to price into quantity. So where this 18 came from? Price multiplied by the quantity. Right? Where this 28 came from? Price multiplied by quantity. Right? What is the average revenue? Average revenue is equal to total revenue divided by quantity. Right? So let's talk about it. The average revenue is equal to total revenue divided by quantity. So where this 8 came from? Total revenue divided by quantity. 24 divided by 3, answer is 8. Where this 5 came from? 30 divided by 6, right? So what do you learn from here? That price is equal to AR. So even in perfect competition and in monopoly, price is equal to AR. So these conditions are same.